We live in the times of cultural war. The left fights with the right, and in recent years we hear more and more often about political correctness, woke culture, or the fight against the patriarchal image of the world. Also through works of culture, TV series, especially on major streaming platforms, full length movies, animations, and now games are increasingly becoming a battlefield between progressive and traditional ideas. I would like to explore this topic a bit more deeply, without taking sides, to demystify the medium we all love and think about where the real bone of contention lies. And whenever this political arena is the only path to so-called objective truth. This video will not be rage-bait piece of political manifesto. It's the attempt to find neutrality in the industry, which is increasingly dominated by political disputes. Links to the cited studies can be found in the video description, and now I invite you to dive into the topic with me. Andrzej Sapkowski's Witcher was once considered an exceptionally non-inclusive world, because unlike the Netflix series, its creation did not feature characters from other races, skin colors, or even ethnic minorities, if we don't count the Skellig folk as Scandinavians, of course. That's how it seems. Introducing the Ophiri people helped CD Projekt somewhat shake off the racist label in the DLC Hearts of Stone, which ultimately fell off completely after the release of multicultural Cyberpunk 2077. But did the original Witcher from 2015 really not care about minorities? The problem is that the devil is in the details here. You don't need to play particularly careful to notice that the Scoia'tael storyline in Sapkowski's work is nothing more than the story about the persecution of minorities, presented in a great area where the oppressed, which is the elves and the dwarves, fight the oppressors, humans, often brutally, while ordinary people suffer. Provincialism, religious fanaticism, it was all there. However, some Western reviewers decided that the game set in the Slavic medieval fantasy was too white, and that was it. There were no in-depth story analysis, no one cared about the message of the narrative, the number of other races simply had to match the standards they seemed right. And we are talking about 2015. Progressive themes in games were only just beginning to emerge. I'm very curious what the Reds will do in The Witcher 4. Will Kovir becomes a true melting pot of multicultural society like Night City? Or will CD Projekt, like the previous game, go against the current and show a coherent world with few side characters from other countries, like it should be in Sapkowski's world? But do people fighting to change white characters to dark-skinned ones in their favorite games actually have some point? Let's look at the data. According to Game Studies research, links in the descriptions, since 2015, the percentage of non-white main characters has increased from 20% to 24%. Not much, it's only for percentage. It's different on the big screen. Netflix, criticized for political correctness, has actually significantly changed its policy, increasing the number of non-white characters from 28% in 2018 to as much as 48% in 2023. Increasingly, in the last 2 years, the trend has somewhat reversed, and now we have around 80% white leads. This refers, of course, to the leads, so main characters. Would its ideal be 50%? Perhaps for someone, especially since for years we had nearly 100% of white dominance in Hollywood. And in gaming, a character creator seems like a more sensible and long-term option, because in those games there were no wars, right? Right? Unfortunately no, not entirely at least. Because right now, on the internet, both sides are fighting over the choice between gender and body type in the option. The last dozen or so years have seen the development of the LGBT plus group, the plus standing for various additional orientations, which some claim are infinite in number. Biological sex has been separated from gender identity, which is reflected in character creation options. Baldur's Gate 3, for example, doesn't let us choose between woman and man, but between 4 body types, 2 smaller ones, male and female build, and their larger counterparts. In the case of Larion's production, not many people raised the issue because the game itself was excellent. However, during the Oblivion remake, players created mods to change body types back to gender. From my perspective, the situation is a bit ridiculous. We are arguing about the name of an option that offends someone so much that they feel the need to change it with a mod. Bethesda reaction was equally crazy when they blocked that mod, and so trivial matter turned into an ideological war over the name of an option in the character creation. I have a problem with this war because in my option it obscures the real issue and reduces the entire discussion about the quality of individual productions to an attempt to settle worldview differences. The market shows that when a game is great, even those who used to complain don't care that a few extra options appear in the creator. I also believe that the reverse is true. A bad game like Dragon Age Veilguard can blame its failure on the fight against progressism, while its critics focus on the sin of doing push-ups instead of the game's actual problems, such as the poor combat system, lack of role-playing options, and the absurd sanitization of the entire story. As for romance options, already in the first Mass Effect, we had homosexual and bisexual options. Dragon Age 2 basically didn't divide companion characters by orientation, just like Baldur's Gate 3 does today. LGBT+ related storylines do appear more often as side content, but everything ultimately comes down to whatever they are done well. For example, Dragon Age Inquisition introduced the storyline of Dorian, an eccentric mage from the Tevinter Empire. In his companion quest, we learn that the Dorian's father, not accepting his orientation, tried to change him into a heterosexual using dangerous blood magic that could just and easily have turned him into a vegetable. The same Dorian, when we, as a female character, tried to romance him, responded that he would like to feel something more to our character, but it wasn't possible. And this is excellent writing, I really like that.
I think you led me on, actually.
Ah, the flirting. You're a remarkable woman, Inquisitor. I mean that in the best way. In another life, I meant no offense. I'll desist if you prefer.
On the other hand, we have quests like the style of University Task in the Spider-Man 2, where heroes organize a date for 2 homosexual characters and then deliver monologues about how love always wins. Ugh. There is a difference, like huge one. Superficial treatment of the topic ultimately serves no one and creates more wars. For those interested in feels too forced, while critics get another argument in the discussions. Just great. Recent big games have seen a real shift toward female leads, and there is the data to back it up. Between 2015 and 2017, female protagonists made up only 5 to 10%, and that number was inflated by games with character creators, of course. In 2023 and 2026 is already 26% overall, and the trend is rising. Once we had Lara Croft and Samus, today we have Kay Vess from Outlaws, Lucy from GTA, Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn, and Ciri from The Witcher, and now also the Lao Fei from the God of War. It's a big change, but we had to consider how huge the previous disproportion was. Over 90% of male leads. Sounds crazy, right? So any change of the status quo feels drastic. As we know, women have permanently entered gaming. While estimates saying 48% of gamers are females, these numbers are inflated by mobile games, A solid 22% on console and PC is already a significant audience, right? It's like 1 on the 4th. Research shows that this group wants to play as characters of their own gender. The 2021 Quantic Foundry study shows that many as 76% of women prefer to play as their own gender. Another YouGov study from 2025 says that 32% of all responders prefer a female protagonist, while only 4% are determined to choose a male one. The rest didn't care. Creating interesting female protagonists in games means opening up to completely new and growing group of female players. A group that will grow in direct proportion to the numbers of heroines, right? It's fairly simple. The more characters that girls can identify with from a young age in games, as we did with the Kratos or the other characters, the more of them will come to gaming and stay for long, right? Is gaming currently shaken by cultural war? Yes. And it's connected to the decline of so-called game journalism. I will make a separate episode about that someday. Content creators, especially from the West, such as Dr. Disaster or Endymion, build Besiege Fortress based on its war and extreme emotions, where the evil progressive or traditional part of gamers tries to impose their ideals, and neither side is without blame. I only hope for more voices of reason, because gaming should be a place of escapism, not another political war. On the other hand, the IGN or Kotaku are on the other side and forcing the ideas of